Namaste everyone. My name is François Gauthier. Some of you may know me. I'm a French journalist and writer living in India who have been fighting for years and years to prop up India's image abroad and tell Europe that India is the democracy in Asia, is the country where you should put your investments both economically and geopolitically. Now, there has been this conference in the US on the 11th September, timed to coincide with the World Trade attack of 11th September, on dismantling Hindutva. And I and many of you have felt that it was an absolutely ill-timed conference, unfair, targeting Hindus, targeting the party which is in power in India, which was democratically elected, that of the BJP, and the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, who also was elected by at least 400 million Indians. Now, the brain behind this conference is a Frenchman. I am a Frenchman. He's a Frenchman. His name is Christophe Jaffrelot, and he's part of a very prestigious institute in France which is sponsored by the French government. That is, the French government pays Mr. Jaffrelot to inform French people who are often very ignorant about India, on the customs of India, on the economy of India, on the politics of India. Now, Mr. Jaffrelot, who's called an Indologist, for 25 years has been demeaning India, or the country which is really supposed to, to uplift, to inform about. He has brought this country down, speaking constantly about caste, poverty, Hindu fundamentalism, minorities being persecuted in India. I have personally fought this man, but as I said, he's a very powerful man because not only is sponsored by the French government, but every time there is something important happening in India, election, riots, problems, the newspaper and the television call Mr. Jaffrelot, and his views are those who supersede mine and many others. Now, Mr. Jaffrelot is part of a very wide movement of hostile Indology. Indology was started by the British, actually. The British wanted, they had an interest in Sanskrit. They understood that India was not the stupid country that they thought in the beginning, that there was a very ancient civilization out of which Sanskrit and temples, and so many other things sprang. So the British had the first Indologists, like someone called Max Muller, who was a Sanskritist, but also believed that Christianity was the ultimate civilized and democratic institution. So Max Muller and his followers up to today, though they study Sanskrit or temples or Indology, believe that their civilization is superior, and it is translated often into an hostility. So what we need to tackle today is Indology, is Western Indology. I'm not only in France, but also in UK, where there are many Indologists who are hostile to India, quoted by the Guardian or BBC, or the US, where you find people like Mr. Witzel, who is a Sanskritist, or Mrs. Doninger, who is an historian, who are very hostile, who prop up, people who were monsters in their lifetime, like Aurangzeb, who was an invader, an extremely cruel invader, or Tipu Sultan, but demean or lower down great heroes of India, like Shivaji Maharaj or Maharana Pratap or Rani Kito Chennamma. So the problem is with Western Indology. This dismantling Hindutva is the brainchild of Mr. Jaffrelot. I happen to be a Frenchman. Mr. Jaffrelot was the only Western speaker. I know that he has written books after books, some of them not translated into English, about Hindutva, about the fact that the BJP and Mr. Modi are funded by NRIs, by Hindus living in the US or UK or Canada, and this nexus needs to be dismantled. So this is how I know that Mr. Jaffrelot is the brain behind this conference. But there are other Indologists. In France, for instance, there is an Indian called Sanjay Subrahmanyam. He is Indian. He teaches not only the very Collège de France, which is a very prestigious college in France, a university, but also in LA, in UCLA, in the UCLA, the University of Los Angeles. And this man, who's, very mean and write poisonous things about India, is totally against Hindus, keeps, talking about caste, keeps saying that Mr. Modi is a Nazi, keep comparing the BJP to the Taliban, happens to be the brother of India's external affairs minister, with Mr. Jaishankar, who may be a good man, for all I know, but there is a nexus, nexus between the Jaffrelot and the French government, nexus between Mr. Witzel or Mrs. Donninger and very important, very prestigious US universities who sponsored that conference on dismantling Hindutva, like Stanford, like UCLA, like Harvard. Mr. Jaffrelot himself is very close to Stanford University, which published. So there's a whole nexus between governments and hostile Indologists and universities like Collège de France or the London School of Economics, for that matter, which has produced, hostile Indologists after Indologists, or Stanford University in the US. So we need to target that nucleus, that nexus. We need to target the Western Indologists. I have said time and again, I have said it to 4 education ministers in India, that you need to start a school in India of Western Indologists and bring some young, still open Indologists from France, from the UK, from US, from Australia, from Canada. Bring them to India, ground them in some real Indology, bring them to Varanasi, for example, where they really are in the center of India, and give a little bit of grounding in Sanskrit, in meditation, in pranayama, in true Indian history, because there is a true Indian history that exists today. I have myself written a book which is called The Real History of India as It Happened, and then send them back to the West, where in time they will supersede the Jaffrelot and the Witzel and the other hostile Indologists. But nothing happened. Only the Indian government can do it. These 4 ministers, they said, yeah, it's a good idea, but they never did anything. I met the new minister, Mr. Pradhan, who just been nominated by Mr. Modi 1.5 months ago, along with my wife, and I told him the same thing, sir. Start a small school of Indology, make a diploma of Indology that will be recognized by different universities, bring young Indologists from the West, give them 6 months course and send them back. So it is very important in my mind, rather than speak about, Islamic fundamentalism, and leftist, Marxist hostility, you have to target the Western Indologists, because they are the ones who feed the newspaper, the television, they are the ones who give the wrong image of India, they are the ones in the end who influence the economy, because the businessmen in France, in my country, they read Le Monde or they listen to France 2 and they hear Mr. Jaffrelot saying bad things about India, and they think, why should I invest in India? Why should I put my money in India? Even the politics, people like Macron or Boris Johnson, they also listen to these people because they watch the TV, they read newspapers, they read books, and their mind is influenced. Maybe India is a country of fascism, a country of no liberty. I have never seen a country like India where everybody is free to practice his or her religion, everybody is free to live here. I'm partly live in Orville, which is full of Westerners. Great freedom in India. Every minority, religious persecuted, has come to India, from the Parsis to the Jews to the Tibetans today. It's a country of great freedom, so we need Indologists who say so. Okay, India has faults, no doubt India has faults, but also a country of great tolerance, great spirituality, great freedom. But instead, at the moment, every Indologist is saying India is a country where minorities are persecuted, which is absolutely untrue. So please help me into spreading the word that the target is the Western Indologists. We need to target them, we need to change them. Namaste.